Today on our 2013 Chevrolet Volt, you're going to be taking a look at, I'm going to show you how to install the CURT Class 1 Trailer Hitch Receiver, part number C11221. That's what our hitch looks like when it's installed. As you can see, the cross tube is completely hidden behind the bumper fascia. The only thing you can really see is the receiver tube. This is going to be a Class 1 hitch. It's going to be 1.25 inches by 1.25 inches. You can see it has a reinforced collar to give it a little extra stability, and it adds a nice look to it. You're going to have a 1/2 inch hitch pin hole. Safety chain loops are going to be a rolled steel style that are welded on the bottom of the receiver tube. You can see there's plenty of opening for different size hooks. You can see on the front side of our receiver tube, we're going to have a nice thick welded plates. They're going to go up to the cross tube on our hitch. It's going to add a little bit of stability to our receiver tube. This hitch is going to have a 100-pound max tongue weight, which is a downward pressure on the inside of the receiver tube. It's going to have a 1,000-pound max trailer weight, which is a trailer plus a load included. I do recommend checking the owner's manual of your Volt to make sure the vehicle can withstand that amount of weight. You want to go with the lowest number between the vehicle and the hitch. Now, as far as the installation goes, it is a pretty straightforward installation. You will have to drill one hole in the trunk pan, and you will need some gasket sealer. Other than that, it's very simple to put in place. I would recommend having an extra set of hands to help hold it there while you put a couple of the bolts in place. CURT does require the use of stabilization straps for any non-wheeled loads. Now let me give you a few measurements to help you when deciding on any of your hitch mount accessories you may need. From the center of your hitch pin hole to the outermost part of your bumper, it's going to be about 5 inches. From the ground to the top inside of the receiver tube is going to be about 9 inches. Now I recommend getting a raised shank to give you a better ground clearance. Now let me show you how to get this installed. To begin our installation, we need to get into the back of our vehicle and remove the floor coverings. Next, we're going to have 4 10mm nuts we need to remove. One here, and you'll have 2 on the other side. Go ahead and remove this panel. On the driver's side, trunk pan, you're going to have a plug. We need to remove that plug. Flathead screwdriver. We'll just work around the edge of it. Like that. Next, underneath the vehicle, we're going to use a 7mm socket. Remove all the bolts holding on the panel. Next, we'll take a T15 Torx bit. We're going to move the one Torx head bolt on this side, and you'll have one more on the other side. Then we'll have 2 more T15 button head screws in the wheel well. And then we'll have 1 plastic push pin fastener right here on the side, passenger side. Just use a flathead screwdriver and pry out that center. You want to make sure we get the base out with it. And we'll go ahead and remove our panel. We'll set it aside to be reinstalled later. Next, we're going to take a tape measure from the center of the hole in our trunk pan. We want to measure forward 4.5 inches towards the front of the vehicle. Like that. Next, I'm going to take a step bit. If you don't have a step bit, what we need to do is we need to open a hole right here to fit a 1/2 inch bolt into. I'm going to try and stay centered with my other hole. Now we'll just take the 1/2 inch bolt and go ahead and slide it in, make sure it's fitting right. Make any adjustments necessary. If we need to open the hole just a little bit more, we can do that. You can see ours fits just fine. What I suggest is taking a little bit of spray paint and spraying the bare metal. It's going to help keep it from corroding later on down the road. Next, I'm going to take some RTV silicone, and they tell you to put a bead around the hole. We're going to have a couple different size spacers. You can see we have a smaller space here than here. I'm actually going to take the silicone, I'm going to put it on the spacer itself. I can get it a little bit thicker along these edges here. Just to make sure that when I put this on, it seals onto the vehicle. So if you don't have any of this silicone, you can find this on our website. Set that right over that hole. I'll take this one. It's going to sit right over the top of it like that. We'll do the same thing with this one. Just like that. And we're going to take our 2 1/2-inch carriage bolts. Slide them down into the holes, just like that. On the underside of the car, passenger side frame rail, we're going to have 2 existing weld nuts. What I suggest doing is taking the 2 hex head bolts and thread them in by hand first to make sure that the threads are clean. We don't want our bolt to cross thread into that weld nut. See, that one's going in good. I'm going to go ahead and spray it anyway. Take any type of silicone spray or lubricant and make sure that's cleaned out. Our other one here, do the same thing. Take a nylon tube brush, and if you don't have one of these, you can find this on our website also. We'll clean out those threads. Now we have our threads clean. Now with an extra set of hands, we'll get our hitch into place. We're going to take our flange nuts. You just want to make sure you're not going to push the bolt up inside of the trunk pan. We'll get one on each of these. And then for the other side, you're going to take your hex bolt, conical tooth washer. You want to make sure the teeth are facing up toward the hitch. Go ahead and thread those into those holes that we cleaned out. Next, we'll tighten all of our hardware. We're going to be using a 17mm socket on our hex bolts. For our flange nuts, we're going to be using a 19mm socket. Next, we'll torque everything to the specifications and the instructions. Next thing we need to do is we need to trim our underbody panel. Sometimes the directions can be a little bit off on where to start your measurement. So what I like to do is I will actually kind of pre-fit my panel. You can see back here I put the 2 7mm bolt heads or bolts back in just to hold the panel up in place. That way I know that it's in the right spot. And I'll push this up against my hitch and I'll actually cut this out. The whole goal here is to not cut out more than what we have to. So I can actually mark this right on the edge of the hitch. Now I can pull my panel back down. We actually need to take it back 4 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and use our tape measure per our instructions. And we'll go back 4 inches. I'm just going to use a utility knife to cut it out. Now there is going to be one more cut we're going to have to make, but I'm going to go ahead and pre-test fit this again just to make sure we've cut back far enough, our holes line up. So you can see my cut here. We've gone up high enough, all my holes are meeting up. The next cut we're going to have to do, this edge right here on our hitch is what is hitting our panel right here. We're going to need to notch that out. So you can see the notch that I cut out here. This is by the directions. It's just 3 inches long by 1.75 wide. But what they don't tell you is that the top side here, there's actually a lip that folds over. So when you're trying to put the panel back in place, it sits against the bolt head, and it actually pushes down on the panel and doesn't let you line it up. So you'll need to cut that lip off also. You can see it's actually going up past the bolt head there. Once you have your panel cut out, go ahead and reinstall your hardware. That'll do it for a look at and installation on the CURT Class 1 Trailer Hitch Receiver, part number C11221 on our 2013 Chevrolet Volt.